there's always... What the... Uh-oh!
Introducing battle tanks for Nintendo 64. Explosive tank action for up to 4 players.
Battle tanks.
Alright, let's dive into Battle Tanks, the game where a bunch of horny guys in armored machines blow each other to pieces for the last remaining women on the planet. Released originally on the Nintendo 64, it's become a bit of a cult classic for several reasons. It's absolutely bananas storyline, it's chaotic and addictive multiplayer, and the sheer joy of being able to blow up practically everything in sight. When I first picked up the game, I had no idea what to expect, and honestly, I found myself having a blast. This game is a ton of fun, especially with the story, which is really the weirdest part of the game. So let's start there. The year is January 3rd, 2001. Remember, this game came out in the late 90s, so this was the future back then. The CDC in Atlanta, Georgia classifies a newly discovered virus as a level 4 hot agent. No vaccines, no cure. The catch? It's selective. So, good news everybody, it doesn't affect everyone. Bad news, it only affects women. Long story short, the virus wipes out nearly all of them. Civilization collapses, the National Guard fractures, armies splinter, and suddenly every guy left on Earth is fighting over the few surviving women left. Governments try to set up quarantine zones to protect them, though really it looks more like they're hoarding all the women for themselves. Oh, and after that, nukes start flying. Civil wars erupt. China invades Russia, and the whole world basically implodes because, well, there are no women and lots of horny men. By the time the dust settles, the numbers are grim. There are 50 million men, only 50,000 women. That's one woman for every 1,000 guys. Gangs then organize around capturing these remaining women, now called Queen Lords. Some women are treated like gods, others are treated like trophies. Really, how well you're treated depends on what gang picks you up, if you're a woman. Oh, and also for some reason, all the men universally decide that the best vehicle for the apocalypse is a fucking tank. So literally everybody, from biker gangs to psychedelic criminals to nuclear mutants, decide to build tanks and to blow each other up with them. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it too hard, but it makes the gameplay a ton of fun, so I will let it pass. And caught up in all this madness is Griffin Spade. He already had a wife, Madison, who survived the plague. Now, I want to point out something funny. The fact is, my ex-girlfriend is also named Madison, so I also find this story just that much more funny because of it. Anyway, his wife survived the plague, and to save his life, she turned herself over to the army and was taken to San Francisco's quarantine zone. Now Griffin must fight his way across a ruined America, blasting through gangs and armies alike to rescue her. It's love, tanks, and complete and total masculine destruction. Something I also want to point out about the story and campaign of Battle Tanks is that you start out as a lone wolf. Griffin is on his own. But as you go through the campaign, other men join forces with Griffin. I'm assuming these men had wives or daughters taken to the quarantine zones and were also on their way there. So they were all like, hey, we all have the exact same objective. How about we unite under Griffin's banner here and have strength in numbers? So as you play through the game, you actually amass a small army, which is actually really cool. I can't think of too many other games that do something like this, where you start off by yourself, but by the end of it, have an entire army at your disposal. That being said, I do have one major complaint with the story. That is the dialogue, or lack of it. Griffin, our main hero, and Madison hardly say a word to each other throughout the entire game. And all the cutscenes are focused primarily on world building, not character development. So, the game has a fully realized world and it's super intricate and detailed, but there's no characters that inhabit it, that you know. Which is a real shame, because this game's world has so much potential for awesome stories. But as it is now, we basically just get a documentary about the end of the world, with tanks thrown into the mix. Like I said, there's the potential for an awesome story here, and they just squandered it. Next up, let's talk about the soundtrack. Battle Tanks runs on pure, MIDI, grunge rock energy that somehow sound pretty good, even on the Nintendo 64. Honestly, for a cartridge, the music is fantastic. If this game had released on the PlayStation with CD audio, it probably would have sounded way better, but as it stands, the music in this game is pretty good. My personal favorite track in the game is the main theme. It's so dark, edgy, and industrial that it fits the game just so perfectly. Here, take a listen. And speaking of rock music, if you're a fan of it, I have just the game for you. My studio released a game recently called Nova Rebellion. And if you want to support the channel and support my studio, you should go check it out on Steam and itch.io. It's a space shooter where you play as rock and roll space outlaws. Apologies for the random ad, but I made the game. I would very much love for people to play it, and I have to pay my bills somehow. Anyway, back to Battle Tanks. Next, let's talk about the gameplay. Battle Tanks has multiple gameplay styles across its campaign and multiplayer. We'll start with the campaign first, and then talk about the multiplayer later on. And the campaign, when you first start it, it's basically just kill all the tanks in the map to proceed. Also, there are a few levels where it's basically get from point A to point B and leave everything that gets in your way a molten pile of scrap metal and blood. But as you go through the game and you gather more allies and a bigger army, later levels have you engage in full-scale tank battles with your army and capture Queen Lords, and defending your base. Like I said, this game has a really cool sense of escalation as you go through it. The controls in this game are absolutely excellent, and you have a huge variety of weapons at your disposal. Everything from your main turret, to missiles, to bombs, to freaking nuclear bombs, as well as a variety of other power-ups, such as shields and cloaking devices. That being said, the gameplay isn't perfect. There are two main issues worth pointing out. For starters, the smoke. Every time you fire a round, or there's an explosion, it creates smoke, which is okay when there's just a little bit of it, but when there's too much of it, you can't see where the heck you're going or where the heck you're shooting. It's a bit of a problem. especially in a game about driving tanks. The next problem is nowhere near as prominent, but still there. That is the Nintendo 64 fog that is all over this game. It's just very distracting and weird. Like, everywhere you go, there's this fog like it just got done raining. The draw distance is acceptable, but it could be better. So yeah, other than those two minor complaints, the gameplay is pretty solid. Now, let's talk about the multiplayer. And I've actually got a really funny story here about how I got this footage. You see, originally, a really good friend of mine was supposed to help me get this footage. Unfortunately, he had some personal problems and couldn't play with me. So, while I was at work, I ended up paying a random stranger $5 in order to play the multiplayer mode with me. Yes, this footage you are seeing right now is from a guy who had never even heard of battle tanks before and was playing a match with me because I offered to pay him $5. And even though he was an absolute total newcomer, he said he had an absolute blast. And that's because the multiplayer in this game is an absolute blast. Up to 4 people can play at once, and there are a ton of modes to play around with. Seriously, if you're looking for a great party game for you and your friends to play, you cannot go wrong with battle tanks. The multiplayer is just peak. It's amazing. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about battle tanks. It's a pretty solid game overall, and I would highly recommend you check it out. Especially if you have a bunch of friends to play the multiplayer with. I mean, sure, the game has some flaws, but overall, it's a fun time. Anyway, I believe that will be all. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you liked the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and if you like gaming, I would like to personally invite you to our Discord server. Links down in the description. Oh, and if you want to support me directly, make sure to check out the game Nova Rebellion on Steam and itch.io. Links will be in the description. Anyway, that'll be all for today. This is Troy Schultz, the Anti-Gamer Slayer, signing off!